Good morning, everybody. Say good morning, Bones. He says good morning. You just can't hear him. He talks very soft. Um, Good morning. Today we're going to start talking about the wonderful world of ecology. Okay, ecology covers a large span of a whole lot of stuff going on in our environment. So let's dive right in, shall we? Okay. The formal definition for ecology is it is the study how all the organisms in the environment interact and how the things that surround them are all working together in a living environment for them to be able to survive. So ecology is the study of how organisms interact with the environment and the living things that surround them, like you, like me, like Bones used to be. All right, here we go. All right, so now the basic principle behind ecology, okay, or the fundamental concept as we call it, is that all organisms are interdependent on each other. What does that mean? That means they all rely on each other stuff for things. Whether a spider relies on a mosquito getting caught in a web to eat it, or whether when a organism dies and decomposes back into the soil of the earth and acts as fertilizer for the plant life to be able to grow. So all organisms are going to be relying on each other for something, okay? We also always interact with our physical environment, whether it's plant life, whether it's animal life. We're constantly interacting with each other and the environment, okay? Now, due to our interactions, this causes a energy flow. We're constantly passing energy around and recycling materials in order for life to continue to happen. Okay, a lot of it could be traced back to the movie Lion King when you hear about the circle of life, and Mufasa explains to Simba how they eat the antelope, and then when their bodies die, they decompose and they get returned to the earth for the grass to grow, and then the antelope eats the grass, and it's called the circle of life. That's actually true. And the passing of energy and the recycling of materials is what makes ecology happen, what the fundamental concept behind all of our interactions is in our environment. Okay? Now, what is an environment? An environment is everything that surrounds an organism and acts upon it. There's lots of different kinds of environments. We have aquatic environments. You can see the fish there. We have tropical environments. You can see the tropical rainforest, polar environments, okay, that are very cold, desert environments. We've got lots of different types of environments, and the organisms and the plant life that live in each of these environments are very different. So we're going to take a look at everything. Now, there are factors in our environment that affect the way we behave, okay? The first set of factors we're going to talk about are abiotic factors. Abiotic factors means it's a non-living factor, okay? It's something that is not living that affects your ability in order to survive and in order to reproduce, okay? Now, the abiotic factors vary in the different environments that you are in. For instance, light intensity. Okay, light is part of the environment. There's more light that is readily available at the equator than there is at the North Pole. Okay, that's going to affect the ability for plant life to be able to grow and flourish. So there is a lot more plant life more towards the equator than there is at the North Pole, which is more barren and snow-ridden. Temperature range. Okay, it's a lot colder in the north part of the country than it is in the south part of the country. That's going to cause different organisms to be better adapted to be able to live in that environment. It's going to cause the different amounts of plant life to be different. In deserts, you're going to get more cactuses. In temperate forests, you're going to get more pine trees. So the temperature range and the light intensity are going to affect plant life and animals that live in those plants. The type of soil or rock and the pH level of them. So not all soil is created equal. Some soils can be a little bit more acidic. Some soils can be a little bit more basic in pH level. And that actually changes the color of the plants that are living in them and what type of plants can live in them. There's a certain type of plant. I can never remember the name of it. I call it the bally flower bush. Gets planted in my garden. Well, anyway, when we originally bought these plants with these flowers on it, the flowers were blue. When we planted them, they turned to pink. And I turned to Bones. I said, Bones, why did our flowers turn from blue to pink? And he said it's because of the pH level. We had more acidic of a soil that caused the change in the color of the flower, which I thought was really interesting. That was pretty cool, Bones. So Bones helped me out with that. Water availability. Okay, if there's not a lot of water available, then different types of organisms cannot live there. They need to be able to drink water, such as fish or whale. You can't take a whale and put a whale in a small little lake. It's just not going to survive. There's not enough water there. We can't take a redwood tree and plant it in a forest. It needs more water. Okay, the plants that live in a desert would be more like a cactus that needs less water. So water availability is a big abiotic factor that limits the population and the organisms that can live in an environment. Dissolved gases in the air, the level of pollution in the air, all of these are considered abiotic factors, which is a factor, it's a non-living factor that affects who can survive in the environment that they are living in. Okay, abiotic, non-living factor that affects us living in an area. So that's abiotic factors. We also have biotic factors. Biotic factors are living factors now that directly affect how we live in an environment. For instance, parasites. Okay, some common types of parasites that we come in contact with in our environment that we live here in New York are ticks with Lyme's disease, are mosquitoes that can carry diseases. So parasites, remember, parasites are organisms that feed off of a host. So for a benefit of their own, but hurt their host. So there's lots of different parasites out there, ticks, mosquitoes, that do that. Disease is another one, all right? Diseases can spread very quickly and affect the different types of organisms that can live or die in an environment. Predation is another one, okay? We're talking food chains here. If you're higher up on the food chain, then you're going to be eating organisms that are lower on the food chain, making it more difficult for them to be able to live. You can see the ladybug sitting down there eating a little aphid and making it more difficult for them to live. So all of these things, these are now living factors that affect how you live and if you can live in an environment. Okay, we can see the buffalo being taken down by a pride of lions. All right, so these are all living things that affect how you can exist. All right, hopefully you have good adaptations in order to exist in the environment that you are currently living in. If not, then you're going to die off. If you do have good adaptations, you're going to continue to live on. So abiotic factors are non-living factors that affect you living in an environment, and biotic factors are the living factors in that environment. Even you getting along with your brothers and sisters, moms and dads, people that you live with. All of that factors in to your ability to be able to survive and affects your life. Now, what do we find in an ecosystem? Okay. Some of the things, first of all, we find organisms. An organism is any living thing. Okay, we've got bats here, we've got ants, we've got a hippo, we've got a bird on the hippo. Any kind of organism. We've got plant life in the background. Any type of living thing is considered an organism. That's the first thing we find in an ecosystem. Now, organisms live in a habitat. Okay, we all live in a certain kind of habitat. All right, that's the place where the organism lives. And all organisms have a niche or a role, a job that the organism plays in the environment. All right, for instance, we see the bird on top of the hippo's back. That bird is not just sitting there suntanning. He's not, Bones. I know you want to just sit on a hippo's back and relax, okay, have a nice glass of lemonade. But no, that bird is actually picking off little bugs and stuff off the hippo's back to help clean the hippo. That's its job right now. Its job is to help clean the hippo's back. You know how the hippo repays the bird? Do you know? That's right, Bones. The hippo is actually protecting the bird. The hippo's not attacking the bird. The hippo will let the bird sit there and pick all the little bugs off its back to clean it, and the bird gets protection out of the hippo because no other organism that's going to want to eat the bird is going to go near the hippo. So the bird is safe. All right, so the niche or the role or the job, the niche is the role or the job of an organism in its specific habitat at the moment. Like right now, your niche, your job right now is to learn this stuff. That's what you're supposed to do in your habitat, sitting there watching the video. Now, when we get a lot of the same kind of organisms living in a certain place, like this picture over here on the left with all of the zebra, that's called a population. A population is the group of the same kind of organisms living in a certain place. This is one kind of organism, okay? So all of the zebras in an area, or all of the antelope in an area, all the lions in an area, it has to be the same species. So a population is a group of the same kind of organisms living in a place. Now, when you get lots of different populations living together, okay, so populations like your house, you and your family are living in your house. Now, your community, maybe you live in a neighborhood. That's a bunch of families living in an area. A community is a bunch of populations that live in a certain place and interact with each other. So you can see the picture on the right. We have giraffes, we have zebras, we have antelope. We've got lots of different types of species living and interacting with each other. That's what's known as a community. It's kind of like your neighborhood now. Okay, so a population is just you, your family, and your house. Community is your entire neighborhood. Okay, so to build upon this, we have organism. An organism is an individual. A bunch of the same type of organisms living together make up a population. A bunch of populations living together, okay, in a certain area make up a community. And all of these communities interacting with each other make up the entire ecosystem. Okay, what's an easier way to look at it? This is an easier way to look at it. Okay, we start off with an organism. An organism is a single animal or plant. A bunch of the same kind of organisms living together make up a population. So population is a little bit larger. A bunch of populations living in an area make up a community. Okay, so that's even larger. And then all of the plant life and the environmental factors and the populations and the communities and everything make up, and the weather, it makes up the entire ecosystem. Okay, so it goes organism, population, community, ecosystem, smallest to largest. You got that, Bones? And I hope you have it at home. Have a good one.